obviously,
Okay.
Christian
Okay.
McCaffrey,
Love that.
and I nominated Nick Bosa.
Ooh,
I
okay.
felt I
Friendly,
felt
friendly
like I
corner.
needed to have someone on the defensive side, so I feel like Nick Bosa was the only one that had some stats attached to him.
Yeah. The defense, we're gonna get into it. Not incredible, but maybe I wanted to. You said you brought up Brock Purdy, so got to talk about the quarterback. I saw some people who were not 49er fans who I follow and they love football, kind of cursing the 49ers for maybe having someone that has that Brady magic, is what I kept hearing it referred to. Um, was able to pull it out now. I'm 2 back-to-back weeks in a row. Let's not make it a third of
Right.
narrative crushing performances by both Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan. This team can't win gritty wins. They can't come from behind. They can't have game-winning drives. Well, apparently they can. Um, how did you feel about Brock Purdy's performance coming in? Yeah. Just in general, let's say. How did you feel about Brock Purdy's performance? If you had to
Yeah, I
grade it.
mean, he did what he needed to do, and this time it was more extreme than the previous week, right? Like all the people that moved the goalposts for Brock Purdy because they didn't want him. They reached like impossible standards for Brock Purdy because they say in their minds he won't do this.
Like,
So
yeah.
let me just keep
What was it?
let me
Keyshawn
just keep
Johnson
exaggerating. Yeah, Keyshawn Johnson was like
said like
last
last
week.
week that the comeback didn't count because it wasn't enough. Well,
Yeah,
what
he
about the
wasn't
largest
impressed.
comeback in NFC
Yeah,
Championship
how's that for
history?
you? How's
Yeah.
17 points? How's that? Um yeah, so like at this point I feel like Brock Purdy did a lot to silence anyone who was still doubting him. Like I don't know how anyone can watch these last two games. Mind you, these are playoff games.
Yeah.
These games matter more than anything. This is what
Yeah.
you play everything for. And we saw Lamar Jackson like the game prior not be able to put the team on his back and get that win right against the Chiefs. uh but yeah, I mean, Brock did it. He's got ice in his veins. When I was just talking to Weston, I was like, he has something intangible. He has a nip factor. I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it. I don't know what to call it. You mentioned Purdy magic or like Brady magic, whatever you want to call it, but it's it. And
Yeah.
like that's the difference for this team and why I feel so much more confident about this team going into the Super Bowl right now than I have ever before, because I don't think in the past it was always like, oh well, they're going to lose because your quarterback like just force Jimmy to
Yeah.
throw. Are you
Yeah.
sure you want to force Brock to throw? I mean, he's shown in these moments he can, he can
Yeah,
ball out.
like like
And if he doesn't throw it, why is it, do you see that feather? It was, don't worry guys, it wasn't a ghost. It was just a little feather floating around. Um
Steph
but
was tearing apart pillows watching the game and just
yeah,
has
like
to let it
apparently, I don't know where that even came from. Um but yeah, like if you even the throws, if he doesn't find the throw, he's gonna run, he's gonna scramble, like he's gonna use his legs. That is like that is so valuable. And so that's like an underrated uh talent. I don't know, talent, like just something. I don't know if I'd call his running
attribute for
ability a
sure.
talent. Yeah, attribute that he has. Sorry, it's been a long day. Uh,
No worries. You've
um,
traveled, done like
been
multiple
awake since
shows.
like
You've been
4
killing it.
a.m. Yeah, so I'm excited about Brock. I mean, I'm happy for him. He looked so precious on the field with his trophy, and
I'm
like
so happy.
he's so
And Kyle
happy.
Shanahan hugging him. I loved the duality of going into the
That
halftime.
was
Freaking Kyle Shanahan looking like he was like, I'm gonna put Sam Darnold in. I want to stab you, and then also being like,
I mean, Kyle loves Brock. Kyle
yeah,
loves Brock.
yeah. They looked extremely happy. Brock's dad, that picture of Brock's dad celebrating with him. Um, I I think that Brock Purdy. I mean, there's been so many conversations about the like game manager, game changer. I felt like he was a game changer. Without his athletic ability in that game, the 49ers do not win. I think the quarterback on the other side of the field is kind of emblematic of that. Jared Goff, look at me just casually using emblematic. That was beautiful. I just came, sorry, probably not cool when then you stop and congratulate yourself. But Jared Goff on the other side, I thought, played really well. I thought he managed the
He
game
did.
really well. And I will say there was a couple of wide receiver drops that didn't help him. But I really think in today's NFL that mobility is such a crucial factor for a quarterback. This offensive line, in the first two series, Brock Purdy had two batted down balls. Aiden Hutchinson was in his lap throughout the game, specifically in that first half. But his ability to kind of that little hezzy he did, that little friggin' want to talk about Lamar Jackson type, that little like watching, you're like, no, it's a sack, and then he runs, blah, 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 let me throw over here to Debo.
What was
Speaking
that?
of Debo,
What was that?
sorry,
It had the
just
same energy of that one like interview where he's like, "Papa." Never mind. I'll send you the video after.
yeah.
But
It's okay. Steph thinks in
Ashley put up this comment from Al Bundy, the second one, not the one he just put. But Purdy has played 1.5 years in the NFL. He has 4 playoff wins. Dak Prescott has played in the NFL for 8 years. He has 2 playoff wins.
I like the kiki.
This is exactly what we're talking about with Brock Purdy and like the difference,
the unbelievable standards
him.
that people have for him, and like the inability to give him credit. And I fall in this too, right? Because like, I maybe it's being the quarterback for the 49ers. Maybe it's being a fan of the 49ers and kind of feeling like the quarterback has been a weak spot when they've gotten so far under Kyle Shanahan. And also, want to think about him as a coach and all the years he's been to the Super Bowl now with the 49ers, or, to the playoffs, and his runs, also incredible. But yeah, I mean, I want to, he deserves so much praise. I can't believe Ryan Clark, friggin', what does he say now? Can't be involved in the MVP conversation. Well, he just performed better than Lamar in the most important games of their careers. Everyone would obviously take Jared Goff. Well, I don't think that's true, because I think that the difference in this game is Brock Purdy being able to have a little bit more mobility than Jared Goff, who couldn't move in the pocket. And yeah, maybe Jared Goff has a little bit of stronger arm, but I think Brock Purdy's arm gets more shit than it deserves. I'm not saying it's the best arm ever at all, but I think it gets more shit than it deserves. And I think his mobility is like extremely underrated. That's what I was saying earlier with Aiden Hutchinson being in the backfield, and Brock Purdy's ability to kind of that throw to use check, like it's just.
That one.
He's making shit. For lack of a better word, he's making shit happen. Second year, only just finished his full first season. He's never lost a playoff game that he started and finished. I saw someone say that. I mean, that's an incredible stat.
Yeah.
That's like, okay. And I and I want them to win the Super Bowl, but if you lose to Patrick Mahomes, all throughout the playoffs, I've kind of thought, I've asked myself, which coach is under the most pressure to win, which quarterback? And I feel like that game, that win, really built up. I named the stream a legendary come from behind, because I think that games like that and these types of playoff runs are what, brings new fans and already existing fans. You start building a lore, especially when you're young like this, when you consider quarterbacks that kind of make it this far younger in their career. I think that really sets them up for just having a lot of incredible storylines behind them. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there should only be good storylines about Brock Purdy, and yet there's been people who, at every turn have tried to discredit him. And Ryan Clark today had to tip his hat to him, because what else can you say? Really, there's nothing you can say to make a legitimate argument against Brock Purdy right now. you just can't. I mean, so playoff games mean more than anything, and Brock Purdy has stepped up in a huge way in both of them for the 49ers and has orchestrated comeback wins in both of them. He did it in the rain. He did it without Debo. He did it from 4 down. He did it from 17 down. Like, what can you say?
Every time when there's like a new, like, okay, well, what about this? It's like, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you again.
Like,
I'm gonna show
bet.
you again.
Now
And the
that
cool
they're gonna
thing
be
about that
like,
is like,
well, can he beat Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl?
it's like, okay, well, how many people can bring Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl? Like, what are the
No,
standards for this
going
20?
to do it. He's gonna do it.
There we go. I like that. I like that energy. Um, yeah, and the weird thing is, like, I mean, that was, I don't think Brock Purdy would grade his performance as good. Like, I think he can perform better in the game, and I think the entire team probably felt that way. But yeah, a lot of people in the comments were agreeing, kind of saying Brock Purdy was the cheat code in the second half. I think that they made a huge transition going into the second half, and I was kind of surprised that they came out trying to run the ball so much. And I noticed that when they were able to, now obviously the shift of momentum. What is it also to be said with Brock Purdy really quick? You know that saying, it's better to be lucky than good? That
Mhm.
Brandon Ayuk, there was a little bit of a momentum turn, some of it on Dan
Just a little
Campbell
bit.
and some of it on just the football gods, where Brock Purdy threw the ball, hit the other guy in the head. There's a still photo of the guy, his hands, the ball like in between his hands and here. Brandon Ayuk like 2 feet behind him with his hands over here catching air. And then the like caption is Brandon Ayuk caught this ball. And it's just
That's
crazy. Um, how did you feel when you watched that catch? And did you think that the kind of that catch, the missed fourth down, the fumble, do you believe in momentum, and do you think that that change? Well, we can transition
Oh
into
yeah.
that, but first, your reaction to that catch.
I mean, I definitely believe in momentum. I was just mentioning this to Weston, and I also tweeted it out earlier. When I rewatched the game, when you rewatch the game, sometimes you feel a little bit differently because you know
Yeah,
how
yeah,
it ended, so you have a
yeah.
clear mind going into it. And I actually felt like, even though it felt like the Lions had all of the momentum, like in the first quarter and in the first half, like there was a moment where the 49ers like stole a good amount of momentum back. It was 14-7. And then Brock Purdy threw a pick, and that wasn't even like totally his fault. Like, I know it hit one of the defenders hit his hand, so it didn't come off cleanly. Um so thankfully it wasn't like a decision making thing. But yeah, after that, the Lions put up 10 more points before the half, and that was like in the final 6 minutes of the half. So it didn't watching it back, it was not as bad as it seemed. And I think that's probably what had the 49ers feeling okay and like they can do it going into halftime, because they had put together a touchdown scoring drive in the first half. Like they did have momentum. It was really just an unfortunate, mishap that kind of swayed the momentum again. So in the second half, you come out, feeling like, okay, we just need to get the momentum back, and they did that. Um, in a huge way right off the bat.